Hey, y'all, it's Progress Texas Podcasting Director Chris Mosier, and I'm proud to have been part of this organization's growth into the primary information source dedicated to progressive ideas and action in the Lone Star State. Not only our podcast feed, which has tripled our listenership over the last couple of years, reaching thousands and thousands of Texans, but also massive growth on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and other primary social media platforms where we've built one of the biggest audiences specifically for Texas progressive political issues, reaching hundreds of thousands of people looking for an alternative to GOP business as usual here in the Lone Star State. If you're a Texan who values truth and diversity and tolerance and inclusion and kindness and individual freedom and environmental responsibility and equity and ethics in our justice system, Progress Texas is your home for news that matters and opinions and ideas that make a real difference. Our summer vacation membership drive continues, and while we're super happy with all of you who have joined the team, we frankly have a long way to go, and we simply can't continue without your help. Internet fluff is free, but important independent information isn't. If you're a Progress Texas regular, this is your personal invitation from me to join our team and help us keep going towards next year's all-important midterm elections and beyond. It's all on the line, y'all. ProgressTexas.org. And thanks so much. Enjoy the show.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to another session of In Progress. It's our weekly internal but external visiting session among communications professionals about the news of the week. And the biggest news of the week is this terrible, awful redistricting scheme to steal your voting power. And I'm Kathleen Thompson, Progress Texas Executive Director, and we're joined by Advocacy Manager Reagan Stone.
Hey, y'all. Happy almost weekend.
And Digital Associate Haley Smith, who's on site at the Texas Capitol right now while we're recording. Thank you so much, Haley, for being our eyes and ears at the Capitol this morning.
Happy to be here.
Haley, tell us who you've talked to. I saw the pleas from folks in Dallas to get on a bus early this morning to ride a bus down to the Capitol, and then for folks in Harris County to go west and go to the Capitol. But you've been speaking to people who are waiting in line, and we've seen outside of the redistricting hearings already, thousands of people trying to get in. Of course, lawmakers don't want to hear it. So that's why there are so few hearings and so little time given per hearing. But for the people who did show up today, will you tell us about who you talked to and what they said?
Yeah, absolutely. I got here, for listeners, it's about 11:30. I got here about 10, and the Capitol was full of people from across the state.
Great.
Gathered to say no to the unfair, racist maps who are trying to steal voices and votes away from Texans. And we listened to lawmakers like Lloyd Doggett, Greg Casar, Lauren Ashley Simmons, Vicki Goodwin, just so many fighters across Texas who are looking to make sure that their constituents are heard and represented in their communities the way their communities are, not cut and diced and surgically put together to create Republican dominance, fake manufactured Republican dominance. They're looking for their communities to be represented, equally and fairly. And I think that's what we should all want. I've talked to a couple people, including the Texas Democratic Party chair, Kendall Scudder, who is wearing his nice Progress Texas hat.
Awesome. Thanks, Kendall.
Talked to a bunch of people from Kyle, from Austin. There's people, like I said, from across the state. I don't want to say, like, anybody that's testified knows the feeling of, like, standing in front of lawmakers, Republican lawmakers who, like, don't really want to hear what you have to say. And I think that's a really daunting and frustrating feeling to feel by yourself. But when you're in a room full of people who aren't gonna let Republicans take our voice away, are gonna fight, are gonna sit with that feeling and push through that feeling, because what is more important is making sure our democracy is live and well. And none of the people here are gonna give that up. And it feels really good. It's frustrating to go through alone, but I think with enough of us together, it really feels like anything's possible. So it feels good to be here today. I've had a really great time talking to people. And yeah, I'm hoping after this In Progress section, I can talk to little people about what they had to say about redistricting. There's overflow rooms, several overflow rooms around the Capitol today. Like I said, so many people from across the state are here because they know how important it is. And I'm happy to be here.
Our podcasting director, Chris Mosier, is going to play those clips for you listeners after we conclude our chat here. But Haley, the people who are not party officials, what did they say to you about what they want and what they expect from their lawmakers who are supposed to be there representing them?
I think that redistricting is something that can very easily be a political insider issue. People don't know what congressional districts are. People don't know what voting districts are. People don't know things like the importance of keeping constituencies together. These are not things that people that pay bills and have a job and have kids need to worry about or should worry about, because your lawmakers are supposed to be taking care of those things for you. Unfortunately, the situation we have here in Texas is that Republican lawmakers take advantage of the fact that we put trust in them to take care of us, and they're using it to manufacture a political system that will box them out. And I think regular people are now finally starting to wake up to that fact. With something so far removed as redistricting getting priority over things like childcare and flood relief and school funding. And regular everyday people have come to the Capitol today to say, this is not what is important to me. This is not what's putting food on the table. This is not what's helping my family. This is not what's helping Texas.
Thanks, Haley. Reagan, will you talk to us about the timing of this MAPS release? We're less than a week away from the 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act. And in your Daily Dispatch video yesterday, you talked about how congressional Republicans and their associates in our Texas legislature are looking to turn back the clock in Congress. Would you say some more about that in case people missed that one video?
Yeah, you bet. And just to catch folks up, of course, this is a redistricting plan that has come from the highest in DC. We're talking Donald Trump called upon Greg Abbott to get 5 more seats for Republicans. So very partisan. But at the same time, what we can notice directly to this is that it is race-based decisions. So the Republicans have made this claim from a so-called Trump Justice Department that these coalition districts, which are made up of multiple different minority groups, or Black majority districts, or Hispanic majority districts, that they were drawn because of race. My goodness, folks, when we look at these new maps, we see Anglo or white folks and rural voters being packed into Black and Hispanic districts and urban districts. And I want to give just a quick note to that and then kind of round out to where you're leading to of a U.S. Congress and what that would look like. Just this morning, we got from Dr. Andrea Barrero. She's a PhD at Southern Methodist University here in the state of Texas. She works part of a group that is called Math for Unbiased Maps. It's an interdisciplinary, nonpartisan coalition of Texas scholars that literally use not only their brains, but amazing computer technology to be able to see thousands of different maps that could be created. And this is a short excerpt from what she had to say. Quote, "This map shortchanges non-white voters, Democratic voters, and voters who live in major cities, even more than the current one does. Her analysis shows that an unbiased map should have 3 or 4 districts where non-Anglo voters make up a majority of voting age citizens, and the proposed map only has 2. We'll further note that she says in this testimony that 92% of Black voters and 80% of Latino voters chose all red over Cruz in 2024, and 92% of Black voters and 74% of Latino voters chose Kamala Harris. So we can see directly to why Representative Todd Hunter and the Republicans on that select committee are trying to silence, through racist means, voices of Texans. I want to note, just like you said, in the 1960s, President Lyndon Baines Johnson, he signed the Voting Rights Act, which created to where these minority majority districts could be created so that we'd have people that show the beautiful diversity of this country that represented in the U.S. Congress. If this truly goes through, if this map is allowed to be passed without folks being able to have a real say. Like we said, the U.S. Congress, it would just create more white representation. It would create more Republican representation in direct conflict of that historic bill signed just 60 years ago this coming Wednesday by President Lyndon Baines Johnson. And it would create what we think would be a U.S. Congress that would be whiter than pre-Reconstruction. That's right, Civil War era Congress. This idea of trying to create a U.S. Congress that will be able to continue supporting Trump's many times barbaric, inhumane, sometimes deadly policies, we're really trying to heighten the risk factor to this passing. And so folks, just make sure that you're staying tuned, that you're supporting candidates that are speaking out, and that you follow this to the end. We need every single voice and every single person to be part of the process.
Haley's connection is a little dicey from the Capitol, but she's back. Haley, you were saying in Slack that you looked at the map, and it looks like you might get Chip Roy to be your member of Congress. And up here in Dallas, I was looking really closely because they have Dallas-Fort Worth carved up left and right and left and right. Like Mark Vesey is drawn out of his district, just like back in the day they tried to draw Wendy Davis out of Senate District 10. Haley, talk to us about representation in Congress being like somebody who at least hopefully lives near you, not out at the Gulf of Mexico or over, in New Mexico. Representation matters for folks who are in these urban areas. Talk to us about that, Haley.
Well, I'm originally from a very small town off the Gulf Coast, and my representative for a long time was Cody Bassoud. And like I mentioned earlier, I know very intimately the feeling of trying to talk to a lawmaker, and they frankly don't give a shit of what you have to say because they don't politically think that you matter in a state where they have successfully been able to box you out. And moving to San Marcos, amazing for a lot of reasons. I love San Marcos. But one of the best was that I had Greg Casar as my representative. And for the first time in my life, I felt what it was like to have somebody who believes the things that I believe in represent me in public office. And I think that that is something that is, to a lot of people in your day-to-day life, very minor. It's not something you actively think about a lot. And it's not something I actively think about a lot until, recently, unfortunately. The thought of having somebody legitimately would fight for the things that make my life better, having to forfeit that representation purely out of a partisan political game is heartbreaking. Because it's not just tax policy or, getting your car inspected. I don't know if my bodily autonomy will be protected by the person who's supposed to be representing me in office. And that, again, is not something that I would actively think about a lot, especially with Greg Casar being my representative. But now that I'm faced with the fact that is potentially not going to be something that is offered to me anymore, it's really scary. And it's a really hard thing to confront, really, like, as somebody who is supposed to be living in a democracy. The prospect of somebody like me, somebody who believes the things that I believe in, somebody who lives their life the way I live my life, is politically inconvenient for the dominating party of the state. And it's hard. And I live in a community where there are so many people like me, and all I can think about is how many people won't have people that look like them in office. And it makes everything worthwhile, and it gives me the drive to do what I do and to be here today. But there's no other way to say that it just really sucks. It really does.
Reagan, you were talking about how this may be the only opportunity, now that we do have a map. There have been other hearings this week without a map, which is bananas. So this may be it. There may be a vote, pushing through to the calendars. This may happen this weekend. Time in the special session is running out. Something that Democratic lawmakers have in their power to do is to break quorum. And I attended an event yesterday about redistricting and heard our party chair, Kendall Scudder, talk about the expectations of the House, but also of the Senate. We have enough Texas Democratic senators to break quorum. Are they going to do so?
That's a great question. You're exactly right. The numbers are quite easier in the Texas Senate. And we might note that many of these state senators, although I'll note some have day jobs that are extremely important. I'll note State Senator Molly Cook is an ER nurse in the Houston area. She has a daytime job where she takes 12-hour shifts, and she's needed at that place. But at the same time, there would only be 11 state senators that would have to sign on for that and to leave together. That caucus itself spans, just like much of the Democratic Party, it's a big tent. There's progressives, there's moderates, and you might even say that there's some that are more conservative, even in the Democratic Party there. And so we note that, to get all on the same page is hard sometimes, but 11 folks versus having to bring Texas House Democrats together, that'd be over 50 members that would have to agree and leave together. I also might note that this is something I don't know right now, but in the Texas House, as we've reported, it's $500 per day is a penalty per legislator to not show up to create a quorum. In the Texas Senate, I do not know if that penalty is the same. And
it's not. It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist in the Texas Senate. And so to get 11 folks to be able to leave the state, I think without that penalty would be, in my personal view, would be an easier option to stop these maps from going through in this first called special session.
And if I would just encourage all of our listeners, have you called to your member's office? Have you called your state senator and your state rep and said, this is something that I want you to do? Because if they're saying, nobody's been calling me about this, why would I put myself through the trouble? I'm not hearing from my constituents that this is important to them, but I think it's important that we all take 5 minutes and call our members' offices and say, hey, you ran for this job. You may or may not have had an opponent. They probably did. So they fought a long primary to get this job. They wanted this job. They say that they're going to defend democracy. This is it. Now is the time. So we can't always count on our lawmakers' votes, no matter the issue. It's important, even in air quotes, I'm doing air quotes, listeners, safe districts, that our representatives hear from us in the good times and the bad times. So I would strongly encourage everybody to do so. And Haley, you're at the Capitol. Before you leave today, maybe you'll run by your lawmakers' offices and tell them what's important to you and why, and give them that encouragement that maybe they don't need because they're in the fight, but maybe they do.
You're exactly right, Kathleen, is that listeners, progressives, folks that span the party spectrum here in the state of Texas need to be reaching out to their state lawmakers, their state senators, their state representatives, and letting them know what they think needs to happen next. And if that means a quorum break, by golly, I'm not saying be disrespectful, but be stern in what you believe and what you want to stand up for. I might also give a quick round to a few other news stories that are happening in Austin this week too. We know that Dan's ban, which is a THC bill, which would ban the hemp-derived products that have been legal since the hemp bill went into place, that actually did pass out of a state Senate committee this week. Senator Zaffirini was the only one that voted against that. She was the only Democrat on that committee. And it's going to be going before the state Senate here fairly soon, most likely next week. State senators on the Democratic side in the regular session did vote for that ban. And so, we want to make sure that that voice is heard as well. Just this week, Senator Nathan Johnson did hold a press conference and laid out a couple of bills that would strongly regulate not allow folks under 21 to be able to buy those products, and also cap them at 5% THC per product. And he was joined alongside State Senator Molly Cook as well. And so I do hope personally that the State Senate Democratic Caucus will get on board with that as well. And, to not give a high five to Governor Abbott, but he called for regulation. He called for to keep this stuff out of children's hands. And the state Senate Democrats at that press conference answered that call. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and Republicans did not answer that call. I think one other point that I wanted to bring up too is a national point. Our EPA leader has completely reversed the ideas of what global warming or climate change is. Zeldin is his name. He said that carbon dioxide actually has a positive effect on growing plants. And that's going to be the official federal position on that. So, in this world that's as nuts as today, these are all interconnected. If Trump is able to make preposterous, positions on if CO2 is good for humans or growing plants, it's going to be defended in the U.S. Congress. It's going to be this next Congress that you'll be able to vote on in November 2026, being able to hold that administration accountable.
Something really quick I just wanted to add is something that I saw on Twitter, I think. And it was that the Smithsonian has taken out a section in their exhibit on presidential history of Trump getting impeached. They say that there have only ever been 3 presidents now that have been seriously called for removal. And it's things like you just said, Reagan, where it's like, if he is allowed to just lie and cheat and steal openly in front of American people, then what's the floor to this thing? And I think it's up to us to say when it's enough and to act on it as well.
We know that President Trump's legacy in history, whether it's 2 or 5 years from now or 20 years from now, it will be seen as the worst presidency in American history. It will. In history's eyes, it will. And Americans will come before that reckoning at some point. But I think the biggest idea here is, how long do we got to hold on to this fella? This convicted felon that is currently living in the White House. I think it's just extremely important that Congress does keep up its end of the 3 ideals, that 3 different set of accountability that we have in our federal government: an executive, a legislative, and a judicial branch. And right now, if we're not able to have fair representation in the U.S. Congress, that legislature is going to become a dummy type of branch of government. And we're already seeing so much attacks on the courts as well. We literally had the Speaker of the House, Republican, call for that judges could be, basically fired. And they are firing immigration judges right now, although that's a different type of set of rules around that as well. But, this is becoming where we're going to have a one-party rule, a one-office rule of yes men in D.C., telling Texans what they can and can't do. This is about your rights, your freedoms, your ability to live a prosperous life, and hopefully be able to find a chance to be able to grow in the future. This is your kids, your grandkids' future, and your own. My goodness, folks, I don't mean to sound the alarm bells, and we don't do it much at Progress Texas, but it's here today.
And folks, we have been hitting you up for the ongoing summer membership drive, but I've got a little bit of a different ask today. It's been a heck of a week here for us here at Progress Texas. Jim Crow 2.0 is targeting Black and brown Texans. They're focused on stealing voting power. Like we said, more than half a century after equal voting rights were cemented by the Voting Rights Act. And we've been working day and night to bring you the hearings, the hearing notices, the rallies. Our rapid response coverage to stop this steal entails our pods and videos with lawmakers. Please go a few clicks back and hear from state senators, from state reps who are working day and night to save your voting power. We're working so hard to work with legacy media like the Dallas Morning News to shape the narrative about what's happening and to tell the truth, because folks are lying about what's happening, and they're lying about history, and they're lying about what's happening right now. So we have an ask that we're going to put in the show notes about defending the voting rights 60 years later. Would you please give a one-time donation that is tax deductible to support our Voting Rights Act work at the 60th anniversary? We'll put that link in the show notes.
Very good. Thank you so much, Kathleen. I wanted to land everybody because at Progress Texas, we do want to make sure that we are consciously sounding the alarms at the right time, but we also want to make sure that you're able to have a restful ability to depart from politics here and there. I want to note there's a book I've been reading. It's written by Bill Ayers. It's called Fugitive Days. This gentleman is now a professor at the University of Illinois, but in the 60s, he was fighting for Vietnam to be at peace, and he was also fighting for civil rights. And a quote from this excerpt is he said, quote, "The movement swept us away completely because it demanded everything of us and because it offered everything to us. High purpose, real work to do, love, dreams, hope. It told us to be ourselves and it invited us to reach. It required harmony between thought and action, words and deeds. It said the personal is political. Don't let your life make a mockery of your values. Wherever injustice raises its head, resist. The revolution is your permanent vocation." And I hope that each of you feel that here today. Haley, thank you again for joining us. Kathleen, thank you for joining us. And we'll go ahead to the outro of our Capitol Clips here today.
Bye, y'all.
All right, tell me who you are and tell me what we're doing here today.
I'm Kendall Scudder. I'm the chairman of the Texas Democratic Party, and we're here today to fight to make sure that Republicans don't avoid accountability that they are due, and that they don't push forward racist redistricting maps that will make our Congress wider than it was pre-Reconstruction.
So people are coming from all across the state today. Where are you coming from today, and what does the maps have to do specifically with your home?
Sure. So I came from East Dallas. What it's going to do for us is completely split up East Dallas. We're going to have a member of Congress that lives in Terrell. There will be one member of Congress whose district goes all the way out to Gilmer. It's completely outrageous how they are not taking communities of interest and putting them together. Let's talk about how unfair that is. How unfair is it that if we end up in the middle of water fights, you don't have a member of Congress representing the rights of rural people versus the rights of urban people? You have them having to serve two masters. That is what not having representation in your government looks like, and that's what they're trying to create so that they can play political games with people's livelihoods. Government should be serving people, not working in the best interests of fat cats, billionaires, and banks who are interested in their own best interests and not at ours.
Absolutely. And the 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act is coming up, and like Congressman Kassar just said, this happened in the state of Texas. This is a Texan product. This is a Texan thing. What do you think, with all of this happening around the anniversary, it says about the state of voting rights in this country?
Well, let's say a lot of those big progressive programs started right here in Texas that are under attack. Like all of the rural programs that were created in the New Deal that are under attack by this administration when they're shutting down 340 rural hospitals in this country, or Medicare and Medicaid, where the billionaire bootlicking bill is gouging working people off those health care programs, where right now the Trump administration is openly talking about privatizing Social Security, another program that was started by a Texan, Sam Rayburn, during the New Deal. So add it to the pile of great progressive Texas programs that are under attack by this administration. The way we combat it is by Texans bear hugging the reality that big, bold, progressive ideas come from and start in Texas. And when our electeds bear hug that idea, when they do whatever it takes to flip the table to help the working people of this country, that is whenever people will come back to our party. That's when our voters will feel that we're worth showing up to the polls and voting for.
Here we go. Hi, can you tell me who you are and tell me what we're doing today?
My name is Glenda Allison, and I'm here in support or against the gerrymandering of the Texas districts. We need to keep our vote open to everybody and not isolate just to the conservatives.
Absolutely. And where are you coming from today? People are coming from all over the state.
Kyle, Texas, which is just south, yeah.
From San Marcos. No way.
Okay,
Yeah, cool. It was a drive today, huh?
Not too bad. Well, we're late,
35
so.
was, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
This is my husband, Greg.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Haley. All right. So you're from Kyle. What about redistricting is looking to affect you and your home personally?
Well, it's going to reduce the amount of people it's going to disenfranchise a lot of people that would vote Democratic, for Democrats. And what it is, it's stealing the vote. It is stealing the vote from Americans who deserve the vote. So this is our 5th or 6th protest or whatever just this year. So yeah. So I've been a diehard Democrat all my life, a liberal. He's a convert, but he came to the table. Yeah. But no, what's happening is a travesty to the voting rights of this country, which is fundamental to being an American. And it's the one thing that we really must protect at all costs.
The 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act is coming up, and that's a product of Texas. It's a Texas
Lyndon B.
creation.
Johnson. I was alive when that was passed. 6, but I was there. Yeah.
And so with that anniversary coming up, what do you think that speaks to the state of voting rights in this country?
Right now, I'm more concerned with Texas because Lyndon B. Johnson came from Texas. And what he did for the American citizens was phenomenal, with not only the voting rights, but also the Civil Rights Act. And and what's going to happen if Greg Abbott pulls this one off, California's going to follow suit, New York's going to follow suit. The blue states will not stand for this. We are prepared to fight fire with fire. So I really would just rather they let everybody vote for who they want to vote and have a fair, equal vote throughout the country.
Awesome. Could you tell me your name and what we're doing here today?
My name is Sarah Bradley Carta, and we're here to fight for fair maps in the state of Texas, since the Texas Republicans, along with Donald Trump, are trying to rig our maps and cheat to win. That's basically why we're here.
Basically, that's absolutely it. Okay, so the 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act is coming up. With all of this happening at the same time, what do you think that says about the state of voting rights in Texas and across the country?
About the state of voting rights, you said? Well, I mean, they're obviously under attack. I think they have been for a long time, though. This isn't new. The Republicans, I believe in 2020, 2021, have already gerrymandered the map already and have made it really impossible for communities of color, working class folks to have a fair say, a fair voice. So it's been an issue for a while. The fact that they're trying to push this through even more just makes me think that our voting rights are under attack. And I don't, it's easy to despair in the state of Texas because you feel like you're constantly being, your voice is not always heard. There are millions of progressive or Democratic folks that live in this state, and I feel like we don't have a voice because we aren't represented fairly in our government. So
yeah, absolutely. And so the redistricting hearing is happening today. What did you come here to say?
Mostly just, what most everybody's saying, that the voters, the citizens of the United States, we should choose who our representatives are. They should not be able to choose who their voters are. It should be up to us. We should have a voice. I'm a big believer in democracy, the right to vote, and they're all under attack right now with the Trump regime and with the Texas Republicans. So basically I'm just here to say, ask them to listen to the people and do what they should do, which listen to our voices and represent us fairly.